Oh, there we go. It says we're going live now. So okay, it looks like we are live, and I'm going to refresh that page so I can see it.
Wow.
And
Hello, people.
yeah, okay. We have no
It's
comments
live.
yet. But hello, welcome to the Harlequin Presents Author Chat, day 2. So we've got some authors from down under, from Australia, New Zealand, and then some of our American authors are on today. And we will go around and introduce ourselves and talk about our favorite tropes. And okay, so I guess we'll start. My screen just totally changed. And Maisie, you're up. So we'll start.
Oh, all right. So I'm Macy and I write for Presents, obviously. That's why I'm here in the chat. And I was thinking about, I think I write enemies to lovers the most in Presents, but I'm going to go ahead and say my favorite trope is probably friends to lovers. And it is easier to write in most other areas that I write, but I have done it in Presents. And my most recent one, my first one was One Night in Paradise, which was like a very classic kind of friends to lovers one, but I don't even think that came out in print in the US. So I think a lot of people on here may not have read it. And my most recent one was A Bride for the Lost King. And she is his best friend, but also like his sworn armor bearer because he saved her life one time, and he's a feral king that lives in a secret kingdom in the woods. So anyway, as you do.
Yeah.
A feral
As
king.
you do. What a great premise.
I'm going to read that book now.
Okay, before we go on, I'm just going to quickly read a few comments that have come in. Susan Wilson says, hi to my favorite authors.
Susan! Hi, Susan.
And the book group says, hello, everyone. And Carrie Nichols said, hi, ladies. So excited to see you all. Half a Mo says, hi, everyone. So fun to see you. And Audrey Denholm says, hi. So hi. Good to
Thanks
see
for coming.
everyone. And next up is Dani.
Oh, hi. I'm Dani Collins. I just realized actually that I've been writing for Presents. It's going to be 10 years next year, which astonishes me. Yeah. So that's exciting. As far as favorite tropes, I do a ton of Heroes with a Baby because I love that. Like when the big bulldog gets the kitten and really is like so angry, but the kitten is just destroying it anyway. I love that. So that's always where I go. But I do want to say before we go too much further, Callie, I want to know, you have a Snowbound book too. That's the book I'm peddling today.
I do.
So I wanted to talk to you about that when we get around to it. So we will.
Oh, good. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I like it. Okay. And Selma Haywood says, hello, ladies. And then, hi, Selma. Annie, you're up next.
Oh, hi, I'm Annie. I live in Australia on the East Coast, and I just worked out that next month I'll have been writing for Mills and Boon or Presents for 16 years. So I'm still here, enjoying it. I'm one of those people who can't choose a favourite trope. I read the backs of other people's books and think, oh, we should have written that. Oh, I want to write that, So it's Marriage of Convenience or whatever, it's just, oh, yes, I love it. But the one I was going to mention was this one because I can go, hey, isn't he lovely? Oh, but
I love that.
The Australian cover is pretty.
Wow.
That's a great
So that's out in stores later this month, called The Innocence Protector in Paradise. And the reason I wanted to write that was because it's forbidden love. And that really gets to me, because you know how in any romance, there's a reason why the hero and the heroine can't fall in love. But if there's something taboo, if they're out of bounds, it just adds that juicy tension that, hopefully is going to add drama. So in this case, the forbidden love is because he's her bodyguard, but being a Presents hero is not just a bodyguard. He's the CEO of an international security company, of course.
Of course.
Of course you are. But because he's her bodyguard and she's actually in danger, the story starts with her in danger, he's got this, he has to keep her safe. He has to be aware of what's happening around her, whether she's under threat. So he can't be distracted by how amazing and frustrating and tempting she is.
And the other thing too is he's not just the bodyguard, but she's his best friend's little sister. So she's out of bounds for two reasons. And and there's reasons why he's out of bounds for her, but I had such fun because it was that, no, I can't. Oh, but I want to. Oh, no, I can't, but I want to. And it's like, whenever I pick up somebody else's forbidden love story, or when I write it myself, what I like is that fact it's like a ticking clock in the background, right at the beginning, because it's a romance. They are going to get together, but it's, you're waiting for them to go, I know it's taboo, but I just can't help myself. So anyway, love.
Quickly, just a couple of more comments. Carrie Nichols said, all your books are on my keeper shelf, Dani. So much emotion in them all. And by the way, several exclamation points on that. Susan Wilson said, love Annie and her Greek heroes. And Carrie said, again, love Annie's books too. So,
well, thank you.
And Caitlin, you're up next.
Me? Oh, okay. Well, I like a kidnap. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Okay.
Big ups on the kidnap. Yeah.
Right. Where else can you, in the romance world, where else can you do these really crazy old school over the top things? I mean, I hope we've all had the hero charge into the wedding and carry her out. I know I have.
Yep.
As she's marrying the wrong man. So
Big
he's like,
here.
that's a no. Carries her out right over the shoulder. That's one of my favorites.
Yes, please.
Had a sheik chase down his betrothed. She sort of was like, I don't want to marry you, and went off running away from him around the world.
Is that the one where she fell asleep in the shoes?
Yes.
That's my.
So, but first she's in a cafe somewhere in Canada, and he sort of descends upon her like a thunderstorm. And it's sort of like, how did you think this would end? And she was like,
I remember that one.
And he takes her back, and she's like, oh no, he's gonna like want his, and like marries her, obviously forced against her will. And then she's like, oh no, he's gonna want this passion between us, which I refuse to accept. And so she hides in his closet, which is Macy's favorite scene, like in his shoes. She's like hunched in his closet. And he sort of just like picks her up. And I just love the inevitability of it all, really. My most recent one is another, she's about to marry someone, and the night before, I think it just came out. And the night before, this was one that they said, would you do it all in one night? So I thought, why not? So he shows up and it's like, anyone after me would be a downgrade, obviously, sweetheart, but like, this is insulting. And then when she doesn't sort of come around to his point of view, just kidnaps her, takes her off. And I really like that, because obviously, while I would not support kidnap in reality, I think that
who would really?
That hero does it. It actually seems to me that it's like it's the first chink in the armor. It's like they don't know what to do. They're so like unable to feel their feelings that they're like, I'm gonna do this over the top thing. And I feel like for a Presents hero, it's the first step towards the inevitability of their like poor little battered alpha heart on the ground before her.
I love it.
Caitlin, what's the name of that book? When you held it up, the light was in the way.
So the bride he stole for Christmas.
Oh,
Title, though.
I love the title.
Okay, we have a couple more comments real quick before we go on to our next person. And that is, the Bookbird said, every Presents I read brings me a new favorite author. That is so sweet. And if I get this wrong, I'm really sorry. I think it's Cenis Kerr. And she just did a smiley face, which was really kind. I just think it's really great. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. All of you readers, other authors are here. You guys are just wonderful. Okay, so next we have Jackie.
Oh, okay. I'm Jackie Ashenden, and I'm in Auckland at the moment. I have been writing Presents for not as long as the others, about 2 years, and I love it. And my favorite trope is anything that is the most completely problematic. I would like to write. The more problematic, the better. And I am totally with Megan on the kidnap. I love that. My next book that's coming out is this one here, Pregnant by the Wrong Prince. And like Megan, I was asked to write a one night. So that book takes place over one night. And I just thought, you know what, if I'm going to be doing some kidnap, I'm going to go all the way. And the heroine, well, this is another trope that I quite like, is the intended of is the hero's brother's.
Oh, yeah.
She's engaged to the hero's brother.
Mhm.
And she is also pregnant with the hero's baby, and she is going to marry his
Outrageous.
brother. And she is walking down the aisle, and the hero has found out about the pregnancy, and he comes in and basically does what Megan has already said: picks her up, tosses it over his shoulder, and takes her out.
Mhm.
I love it.
And I love that.
Well
And then she, of course, throws her bouquet at him, and just has a complete fit at him, and he is unimpressed. But yeah, anything that
better than an unimpressed presents hero.
Oh, there is nothing. He just picks the petals off his suit and arranges it in a pattern.
Where did that come from? That like now almost every time we're talking about something happening in one of our presents, it's like, and he takes a dim view, which I feel like is now in all of my descriptions of my books. If I have to send something to my editor, it's like, she is going to marry his brother. He takes a dim view. And I feel like that like would fit in.
In fact, I'm going to put that in my next one that I'm writing right now.
Oh, definitely. I'm going to throw that in too.
Excellent. Okay, well, Deborah Rocha said howdy from Pasadena, Texas. Hi, Deborah. And next is Marcella.
Oh, hi. Well, I'm pretty new. I came on kind of just after Jackie did, so I haven't had a chance to work with a lot of tropes. But like Megan and Jackie, or Caitlin and Jackie mentioned, I love a kidnapping, and a kidnapping is involved in probably the first 3 that I did.
And sword fighting.
And sword fighting and pirates. I really, really love the fantasy elements of Presents.
Yeah.
So I really want to bring in every fantasy fairy tale element that I like acted out as a kid, that I like dreamed of being a part of. Like, I want to be kidnapped and forced into love. Because I think I like the derailment of it. Like, you're just like, you thought you had it good, and then suddenly out of nowhere, and it swings right when you think you have your feet under you. So I like to do that in mine a lot. And I like to read that a lot. And then I also kind of like women in men's positions. So like I have a Queen's Guard trilogy where they're female bodyguards, or just like women who are disguising themselves as men, or women who are mechanics, just any kind of thing in a woman who rides like a man kind of place.
Love it. Okay. So next, oh wait, we have a couple more. Sorry. Down on my job. I was so involved in what you were saying, Marcella. I wasn't reading the comment. So here we go. Audrey Denholm was laughing out loud, and I'm not sure which of our comments she was laughing at, but could have been anything we've said so far. Carrie Nichols says, so good to see you, Marcella. And Selma Haywood said, I am now going through my Kindle and paperbacks. I have read everyone here, and I can't choose a favorite this morning. I missed my stop on the train reading one of Maisie's books.
I'm always happy to be like, I feel like that's like my version of getting to be a Presents hero out in the world. Just disrupting a little bit.
I've done that too with one of Maisie's books, so I know it's like,
Awesome.
I'm past my station.
Holly, you're next.
Oh, wow, how exciting. So I've been writing for Presents. I think my first book came out last year, so I'm another newbie. The problem for me is which trope I love best, because I love them all. Look, I think coming from a subtropical climate where I do, I'm a bit fascinated with snow. I just think it looks gorgeous. It probably doesn't live up to the hype, but anyway, so I wrote a snowbound story. I don't have the book with me, unfortunately. I'm still waiting anxiously for the box, but I printed a copy of the cover out.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Love that cover.
Yeah.
And that dress, I can sew, and I want to make that sparkly purple
beautiful
dress.
colour.
I just don't know where on earth I'd wear it, apart from writing my book.
Writers' conference.
Shopping, whatever.
Yeah. The story was never planned to be written, actually. My current release, the hero's best friend, kind of took over a little bit, and I had to keep slashing scenes with him in. Then when I sent it off to the editor, she sort of sent this email back, and it was all capitals with exclamation marks about the hero in the second book. And I said, oh, I've got a story for him. So I love the snowbound type of trope because it's cold, and there feels something to me really kind of a bit threatening about a really cold, deep winter and snowstorms. So in my story, the hero is a count disgraced, and he's taken himself off into his castle in the mountains.
I love
where he's
it.
locked himself away trying to redeem his family name. And
do.
on the doorstep turns up this, bright, sunshiny woman who has her own agenda for specifically coming to see him. So he lets her in because there's a blizzard outside and she's freezing on his doorstep. So it's all about that, intense forced proximity. And I forgot to mention that the castle's heating's not working as well. So
What are you going to do?
Oh, there's only one
Even
bed.
though there are 400 rooms, even though there are 400 rooms, there's only one warm bed. So,
Whatever will they do?
They're all, hero goes, I'm not an 18-year-old man anymore. I can control my hormones. And the heroine goes, I can be
But he
very adult
cannot
about
control
this.
his hormones.
I can be very adult about this until, they decide to get warm, and he's all like, oh, her skin is so soft and she smells like the promise of summer. And he's going, oh, look at those abs. You smell like midnight and sin. And, then...
Well, you couldn't see that coming, could you?
And oh my goodness, it was such fun to write. This one, they're all struggling in their own way, but this one was just a joy. I couldn't stop, and I wrote the epilogue, and I thought, I just want to write more. So anyway, yes, it was very, very chilly. So one day I would love to myself experience a really deep winter somewhere with lots of snow, and I'd probably hate it but anyway. So that's
We'll do a house swap, you and I. We'll do a house swap.
Oh, good. You can
It
come
always
to
looks very cold where Danny lives.
heat and
It's not even that
humidity.
cold, but we do get a lot of snow. But what I'm laughing at is in my snowbound book, they just think it's a nuisance. It's, it's just that thing that's keeping them in the house. Like, why are we stuck here?
Very
Experience is
point on
showing
the
through.
snow, right? We have a few more comments coming in. Let's see. Sherry Globe said, hi to you all. I'm so glad I made it tonight. Susan Wilson said, got everyone's books with a hearty face. The Book Brood said, the dress on Callie's cover is amazing.
I know. I really want it. I've just... Anyway, I
You're
don't
a
know.
romance author. You can wear it. in
Susan
front of your
Wilson
computer.
says, no to snow, lots of laughter. So apparently, Carrie Nichols, gorgeous cover, Callie, best dressed snowbound heroine. Ooh, probably. The book that I just read, Off Limits to the Crown Prince, and you're all for Stefano. I can't wait to read his own own book.
I'm a bit in love with him, I have to say. I think my editor was too. So anyway.
Okay, so Emmy, you're next.
Annie.
All right. Yes. Hello. Also, I live across from a cemetery and next to a cornfield. So if I suddenly freeze up my computer, my internet out here is not good, but I should catch back up pretty quickly. My first book just came out this spring. So I'm a baby with Harlequin Presents, but I'm loving it. And I love that they support me doing enemies to lovers, because that is my absolute favorite. Classic is Pride and Prejudice, of course. And I actually realized whenever I was thinking about the chat, how much rainstorms, getting caught in a rainstorm and having that epic fight, and they're getting all upset. And then they start realizing also that they're both soaked and, oh, wow, this is actually really sexy, but I still really don't like him. And so my first one, his $1 billion takeover temptation, they get caught in a rainstorm, and it's probably my absolute favorite scene, because she's laughing at him, he's getting irritated, but then they just keep on fussing and it just keeps building tension. And then they get ripped apart before they can kiss. And I love that angst. And yeah, it's just one of my favorite tropes, whether it's a book or a movie. It's just so much fun to watch them want to tear each other's clothes off and then slowly but surely realize, oh, there's more to them than what I first thought.
I love that. That is so awesome. That Enemies to Lover is one of my favorites too.
Yeah,
I really love that, the angst. And Annie, were you the one that was talking about the ticking time clock? Because I feel like It's the same thing with the enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
It's that ticking time clock. You're just waiting
Yeah.
for them to realize.
You're waiting for the explosion.
Well, and they can say the things that in a book where they just met and they actually have like a wooing period, you don't actually say to the end. So they can just like say all those things at each other, and then you just have to sort of like deal with the fallout.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. Well, I guess I'm last. And this is so funny because I'm actually now looking at the other screen and realize I really do see all of you in a different order than it is on the screen that's going out. So sorry about that, guys, but I tried to go in the order that was on my screen. I'm Lucy Monroe, and I have been writing Harlequin Presents for my first book came out 18 years ago. I sold 19 years ago. And my 40th book just came out. His Majesty's Hidden Heir, and it has a secret baby. And I love accidental pregnancy trope. Love it. But I'm going to tell you guys a secret. My very favorite trope of all time, total catnip for me, is the Beauty and the Beast. And the more esoteric you get, so it's not an obvious adaptation of it, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, I gotta read this. So I don't know that I've ever really done a Beauty and the Beast story with Presents, but who knows, but it's just like, I love that. I know some of you have all done it, and I've really enjoyed the stories. So I'm just saying, it's like, it is something I love to read. I think it's the idea for me, it's the psychological idea of the Beast being someone who society says is unacceptable, and Beauty is acceptable, but Beauty sees the beauty in the Beast. That is what I love. That is the part that just gets me in romance. It just makes me so happy.
I like it when he's growly.
Yeah, growly,
very growly.
For sure. For sure. Susan Wilson says, congrats, Emmy. And Darby's okay. Hi, Darby. Darby says, hi, ladies. Excited for this convo. Extra special hey to Lucy and Marcella from Darby.
Oh, yay! That Darby.
You know, right? And the book Brood said, His Majesty's Hidden Heir is a wonderful read. Thank you. That was very kind. Half a Mo says, oh yes, love Maisie's Beauty and the Beast story, though I can't remember the title. Maisie, you can share it right now if you want to.
I'm gonna have to look it up, but I know exactly which one you mean, because I did a series that was like a more literal, I think all Presents are fairy tales, but I did a slightly more literal series. And Beauty and the Beast is my absolute favorite. I have, like one of my very early memories is my dad taking me to see the 90s Beauty and the Beast cartoon. And so that's always been one of my favorites. So it's The Princess Captive Virgin. And I actually named the hero and heroine Adam and Belle, which is the Beast's name in the Disney cartoon. And Belle is, of course, Beauty. And it's like the most literal retelling of that I've ever done. I do it in lots of like non-literal ways and gender swapped ways and all kinds of things across all my books all the time, because it's one of my favorite things. But this one is like super, super literal. So that's The Princess Captive Virgin. And I think she even like runs away and he gets injured coming after her. And then they have like the villagers essentially storm the castle at the end. If I could have gotten away with a talking candelabra, I would have done it. So
I think I love that. I love that. Let's see. Carrie Nichols said, oh, Lucy's The Greek's Christmas Baby was my gateway to Presents. And now we're really good friends. So I love you. It's funny how everyone comes to what we read and what we love. I remember I read Across the Lines for decades, and I started reading Presents before I even knew it was Presents. It was just the books I pulled out of my sister's drawer. But I remember when the first author in Presents that I realized I was reading by author was Lynn Graham. And then I picked up Jacqueline Baird, and then Michelle Reed. And those three, it was a reawakening of my love of Presents again in my late 20s, actually, when that happened. And now if you go to the library Tom built me, there are just stacks of my keepers that I have reread so many times. But yeah, the memory.
I sort of started reading it. Mum wanted to write for Harlequin, Mills and Boon, and so she bought a whole stack of books, and I was in my late teens, and so she was reading them all, and I started reading them, and she'd written 2 manuscripts, which I found. So they're sitting in a drawer here and I haven't read them yet. But I thought I'd love to read them and, see what she's thinking. But I hoarded these books in my room and I read them again and again and again and again. And before I really realized what I was reading, and then I discovered, oh, there's a whole world out there and there was no turning back. And I thought, I want to write these books. And so
when I started writing Presents, Jane Porter handed me with great ceremony Lynn Graham's The Spanish Groom, and Michelle Reed's I think The Price of a Bride, and she was sort of like, here you go, like these are your boundaries. And I was like, oh my God. And I stayed up all night. I was staying at her house and I stayed up all night and read them both back to back. And I might have read, and I just couldn't. They're so good. And
did you die laughing at The Spanish Bride? Because I did. I woke Tom up in bed.
No, and when she goes down in the night and she's scrabbling in the refrigerator and he whips the lights on and it's like, how dare you, I put you on a diet, how dare you do things. She rises and he realizes that she's voluptuously, beautifully.
Yeah.
He's like, you're fine. And Jane told me that same story and I was like, that sounds terrible. She's like, no, it's not. And then you read it and you're like, I have never loved a book more.
I know, it's so good. So good.
Like Michelle Reed, who can like take any moment and put so much emotion in it that you're sobbing, you don't even know why. I mean, it was just, I thought, wow.
Amazing. Wow. Let me look just real quick. Okay. Susan Wilson says, my Lucy Fave is blackmailed into marriage. Ooh, that was a fun book to write. I really loved that Kim allowed me to deal with the issue of vaginismus in that book. That was cool and fun. Half a Mo said, do the other ladies remember their first M&B author they read? So we're kind of talking about that already. And Susan Wilson said hers were Michelle Reed and Carol Mortimer. Oh, Carol Mortimer. Oh, y'all. So good. I just have shelves and shelves of these books. And that love for those stories. And it's funny because my library filled up way fast. Tom built that library when all the kids moved out and I was like sad, and so he's like, I'll build a library for her because she's always
what a hero.
Yeah, she's such a great guy. But we filled it up really, really fast. And so all of you all, most of them are on my e-reader, my Kindle, because there's no more room in the paper library and I can't get rid of the old books. So now I have the Kindle library and I have the paper library, but I still love it.
It took me years to figure out and remember what my first Presents was, what my first Mills and Boon was, but I found it eventually. I asked Harlequin to help me find it.
What was it?
Because I was like, you guys have a database, help me find this book. And I thought for years that it was Miranda Lee, because I read a lot of Miranda Lee very early, but it's not. It's Helen Bianchen and it's The Society Wife. And so to give you guys background on my reading, I grew up reading only inspirational fiction and romance. And so while I loved and still do love some of the inspirational romances that I read, I was always like very like excited when like the couple who was of course married would disappear behind a closed door. And I read one called The Princess by Lori Wick. That's an arranged marriage between a widowed prince and this commoner. And I remember being like, I would love to read more books like this. What? And then imagine my surprise when I discovered there was a whole line out there that existed that was literally about things like that. And there was sex in it. And I've never been more excited in my life. So I quickly discovered Presents and then read 300 of them. So that's why this one got lost in the midst of time. But I remembered it because I was like, it's contemporary and he's got all this money. I had read a lot of historical fiction. So I was like, this is crazy. It's happening now. He's got a Ferrari. There's another woman and she's causing drama and they're married, but they're not in love. And they have amazing sex and like, it's so dramatic. And then I read, when you said Carol Mortimer, I was trying to remember the one of hers I read, and she's his stepsister, and he like puts suntan lotion on her at the pool and then blames her for seducing him. And there's a Sharon Kendrick one that's kind of like that. Where, like, he gets in bed with she's like crawled into one of the beds because she has friends with his sister and she has to stay there. And he like thinks that she's trying to seduce him. And he's like, how dare you? And then she runs away and becomes the famous supermodel now known as Suki. And you see yours as my favorite of yours, I think, is The Rancher's Rules, because that's kind of a friends to lovers. And I believe it was even set in Oregon.
It was.
It was. And he's a cowboy in a Present. So obviously I was super into that. That was one of the, I read a lot of yours early on, but that's one of the titles I remember because I'm bad with titles. And
I'm terrible with them.
then I can't remember my own titles. I don't know. I read so many in that first year, and I was completely swept away by it. And then I was like, I have to write one, because I was just like,
I
was completely like, yeah. So that like, it changed my whole reading life. That was like, Presents was my introduction to romance, and it changed not only my reading life, but my life, because I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. So anyway, that's
I love that story. I love that. I remember your first book coming out, and you came on a chat with me. You were talking about how you write and like use your, and I was like, this woman, she's so smart. So like, yes, you're a great writer, but you're smart. And I mean, y'all are smart. You know that. And it's just like, I just remember just being like, oh, this is so cool, because you had that passion, because I get that. We love what we write. We all do. We love what we write and the stories that we write, and wherever it takes us, we love what we write, and we love what we read. I do have a bunch. This comment thing is just going nuts, and I haven't even looked at it. So let me just really quick. Y'all can keep talking, but let me look. Let's see. The book brood said, the book brood said, Dani's married for one reason only was my first Presents. And then, yeah. And then, let's see, I think, I'm out of, so I think I've read a couple of these other ones, and I didn't read that one. Carrie said, Michelle Reed is a favorite of mine too. My first was A Passionate Marriage. Love that one too. And Erin, you're in for a treat reading Dani's backlist. Totally agree. That is an accurate statement. Susan Wilson, love Miranda Lee. Susan Wilson said, and Helen Bianchen. Definitely had them on my keeper list as well. Have them on shelves downstairs. Half of Mo said, love Sharon Kendrick. Yes, of course. Especially her Stable Girl.
Yes.
The book brood said, I just got One Snowbound New Year's Night by Dani Collins, and I'm very excited to read it. Yes.
I used to read a lot of, I had to stick up for the New Zealand Presents authors.
Yeah.
Susan Napier.
Robin Donald, right?
Yeah.
I was going to say Robin Donald. Oh.
Robin Donald,
Susan Napier,
Stephanie
love
Clare,
Robin Donald. Oh my
and Susan Napier. Susan
Yes.
Napier, was she, well, a friend and I, when I was studying English at university, because I was sort of pretentious and liked sort of reading lots of literary fiction, and did not like at all the, the Mills and Boon sort of, don't really like that. But a friend and I would go and trawl the secondhand bookshops looking for Mills and Boon that we could read over the holidays as a break from all the rest of our stuff. And it was back in the day where you didn't know whether it had sex in it or not. You couldn't tell. We used to think, is it the red rose? Does that mean it's got sex in it? Or the yellow rose is perhaps a closed door? So we used to go through each book and look at it and see, is there sex in it?
Yeah.
And the New Zealand books, the New Zealand authors, now there's a bit of a cultural cringe in New Zealand, and if you've got New Zealand author emblazoned across the book, everyone in New Zealand goes, nah, don't want to read that. Don't want to read any New Zealand books. And it had New Zealand author on these books, and I was thinking, and I was looking, oh, there's sex in it though, so we'll buy that. And so those three authors were my introduction, I guess, to Presents. And I distinctly remember one of Susan Napier, because she used to deal with really quite hard-hitting issues in her books.
Yes, she did.
And I really remember the first book of hers, though, I read was called Mistress of the Groom. And it started with the mistress of the groom riding into the church where he was about to get married to this woman and slapping, I think it was a check or something on his chest. Or services rendered, I'm not quite sure. And then she turned around and went out again. And I was just like, excellent. This is fantastic. These are what these books are all about. I want to read more.
And the one of the things that Susan Napier did so well was put the heroine in situations that were so bad and think, don't do that. It's just too embarrassing. But she did it, and then it got worse, and then it got worse, and it was just. Did you read? I can't remember there's one that she wrote, and I've got it in hardcover. And the heroine has been in doing a photo shoot in a flat, and she's just, I think she's got no clothes on, and she's pulled on a fur coat because the guy who's doing the photo shoot has come on to her, and it's complicated. She races out of the flat and jumps in the lift, and she gets in there there was a couple in there, and the lift breaks down, and it gets very, very hot. And the guy in there ends up being the hero, and she's about to expire from heat, and he's saying, for heaven's sake, take the bloody thing off. And she's going, no, and he goes, and if you're looking at a great way to start a book, it was just and then she wrote such really intense emotion, Jackie, didn't she?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
I remember one of her books. She did a Virgin Hero.
Yeah, one of my favorites. Yeah,
way back before I'd ever read one like that. And she did one where the heroine, the child of the heroine's sister was actually the heroine's child, and the heroine had been raped. And so her sister had brought up this child for her, and it was really, sort of tough issues that she was dealing with.
It was deep.
Yeah.
She's one of my favorites too. I mean, she definitely, oh gosh, there's so many favorites, but Susan, Jackie, you remind me of her because she went all out. She
did.
Said, I'm gonna go. Every book was all in. There was no like holding back a little bit. It was,
that's what I loved about her books. Yeah.
Carrie Nichols. I remember the fur coat in the elevator. Sherry Glug says, the book note says, I'm taking notes on all the names. Cenas Kara is saying, laugh out loud. Sherry Glug says, you have mentioned many of the authors on my keeper shelves. I love reading New Zealand authors. I have relatives out there, and it is lovely to have the country come alive in my mind through their stories. Oh my gosh, right? Isn't that one of the reasons we read these? We love that travel and experiencing maybe someplace that we haven't got. I mean, I just remember, I never thought when I was a kid, I had dreams, big dreams, but there was this, I just thought there's no way a kid in a house who doesn't necessarily always have enough food or whatever, there's not thinking you're going to get to like go to these places. So I read these books and I'm like, I got to be there in my mind. Oh my gosh, I loved the travel. That aspect was so perfect for me. Like I would have read the books even if I wasn't totally into the emotion, but which I was. Susan said, just bought an Audible Maisie and Jackie cowboy book. Yes. And Carrie Nichols said, I remember the fur coat. I already read that. Half a Mo said, Flo Nichols said in a video this week, you don't have to go dark to go deep. Could you talk about that? So if you don't have to go dark to go deep,
you don't have to.
You don't have to like
I'm probably not the person to talk about this since I always
actually, Jackie, that made me think of a conversation you and I had years ago. Because we had between us written a lot of quite dark books in a row. And you, I think, were writing one that you were struggling a little bit with because the hero's conflict, he was in other books, it wasn't as dark. And this was probably like 9 years ago that we were talking about this, 8 years ago. And I remember we were talking and it came up, it was like, well, but when it's your life, it doesn't someone doesn't have to be dead for it to matter. And so I think deep is all about how well do we know the characters and what does it mean to them? If it is essential to the hero or heroine, it doesn't have to be, super, super dark, but we know how high stakes does like being 5 minutes late to something feel sometimes when you're sitting in traffic. And I'm not suggesting to make that a conflict, but it's like, it is all about what are the stakes to the characters? How well do we know them? So we feel connected to what they're feeling. And, how deep are you, like, how deep are we in their emotions? So you show those emotions rather than just telling us, well, she felt quite stressed. Like, how does stress feel? And you write that, and that's kind of how you give, to me, that kind of depth of conflict, even if it isn't life or death, but it feels in the moment to be very big. So that's kind of what I think.
I had someone once tell me that our experience of pain is an interesting thing because, like, somebody who cares a lot about their shoes or their nails and they break a heel or they break a nail, like the intensity of the pain comes from inside of us, like how we are oriented towards that thing. And so that's why someone can be devastated by breaking a nail, and that's also why someone can be devastated by losing a parent. Like it's how important the thing is to us. So like most things are deeper than we realize, and so really if it's digging down into you and what's important to you, like Macy said, like that's where the depth is. The depth is all over.
And I think, but one of the things about Presents that I think is so powerful is the opportunity for the reader to work through dark emotion while reading a book. And then they come out on the other side with a happy ending with the book, but also with hope for whatever dark emotion or really hard things are going on in their own life that may be completely unrelated. It's like a processing thing. I think that when we read these super emotional stories, whether it's Presents or other types of romance or other types of really emotional stories like horror or other things, we are digging deep into our psyche and we're processing things maybe we couldn't process otherwise. And we maybe are going to come out on the other side with a different ability to deal with life because we process those things in a way that didn't require an argument with your spouse or yelling at your teenage kid or, whatever the thing in your life might be at the moment. So I don't think you have to go dark to go deep, obviously, because Maisie and Marcella really explained that very well. But I do think going dark can be really beautiful. It can take the story into a place that we really love to go. It doesn't have to. It's just like we all have a story we're supposed to tell, but or many stories we're supposed to tell.
Does anyone else find, this might just be me, but I'm like, of course you write heroines and you kind of relate to them, and that's not what the hero's there for. He's there to be kind of a fantasy object. But for me, I find the hero's ability to be selfish and not self-aware and quite angry cathartic, because I feel like very often as women in the world, we're not allowed to be those things. And so when I write the Presents hero and he's being unfair and he's being rigid and he's being angry, I'm like, I'm all into this, because this is like it's like my essence that I am not allowed to be. And so I totally agree with you as a reader and as a writer that these things, it's like, oh, there's my unfiltered rage.
Have you written a heroine like that?
I've written a heroine that tried to kill the hero. Literally. So I mean, I guess.
Hi, that's my kid. There's a rotting pumpkin behind me, and he thought that was pretty fascinating.
It's funny because, like, with the hero, sometimes, especially like the last, I don't know, maybe 5 years of writing Presents, I have identified even like really more with my hero. And I would sometimes struggle with writing the heroine story because I'm writing the hero story, because like I'm so into his like healing because he's so broken. And maybe that is processing, right? Because we all have our areas, and maybe I have like all these cracks, who knows? And but you're like working through it, and I love the process of writing, and I love the process of reading too. I love getting into those stories and getting into the characters. And this is just, we have just a few more minutes, guys. We have, but maybe, so this has been amazing. So let's talk, like, maybe, I should look and see. Horatio's Angel said, so lovely to see y'all tonight. And Susan Wilson said, I like that, amazing. I think that's when you were talking about the dark and the deep. Susan Wilson says, what do you ladies think of mafia romance? Has anyone written mafia romance?
I've read a bit of it. It's I mean, I it's fine. I don't really I find the really dark crime stuff a little bit much.
I'll read anything.
The only mafia romance. I'm sorry, Caitlin. What did you say?
I'll read anything if it's compelling. I've read some mafia romance. I like it too. But at the end, you're like, but he's a mafia guy. So like, how's it gonna end? Is it happening?
Part of that is kind of the fantasy. I've only read one that really got me, and that was Alexander Voynov's Burn This City. And I was
that book,
so into it.
Was just amazing. That was an amazing story.
He took
that
us
was a
totally
male. That was a male romance, but I just haven't read anything quite like that. It was just an extraordinary book.
Yeah, so well done. Like, but I don't know that I'd ever write it. I don't think. And I
No.
don't, does anyone know of a Presents that's mafia romance? Because I don't
think
know.
that Jane Porter came very close. She wrote
yeah.
one where it was like, is he or is he not? I just remember seeing where he's sort of like chasing her down, because of course there's like a secret baby and he's chasing her down on like the coast of, I don't know, California or something. And she's like, oh, you're going to kill me. And he sort of throws her in the car and she thinks that he's going to kill her. But no, he just takes her back to his Sicilian castle.
I love it.
I've written
It's
one,
fine.
but I have to
Totally works.
I have to check what it's called. Because I got a little bit of shtick for it actually. Because I had a reader basically ask me, "Don't I think he should be in prison?" And I was like, "No, I think he suffered enough. It wasn't really his fault." So the hero that I wrote had been in the mafia because of his dad, and he did do some pretty awful things.
This is the story I need to read, I think.
Oh, it's called A Hunger for the Forbidden.
Ooh, okay.
And he was
Which one was that one?
It's a continuity. But I think I chose to make him in
Oh,
the
is
mafia.
it the Coretti family?
Corettis. Yeah.
They're all basically the mafia.
They were all
actually.
mafia, I think.
Yeah.
And he was like, he had done some pretty messed up stuff. It is one that opens with him carrying the bride out of the church. She's pregnant with his baby. Who hasn't? Who among us? Anyway, so yes, A Hunger for the Forbidden.
Oh, and there's like the burning down the thing. I remember that one.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say, Horatius Angel said, so love to see y'all tonight. Did I say this? Oh, Half-a-Mo said, brilliant. Thank you so much. Amazing to hear this discussion. Half-a-Mo also said, do you think heroes and heroines have a similar journey to travel and presents? And before we answer that, I'm just going to say Carrie Nichols also said Michelle Smart had a hero who was on the outskirts of the mafia. So it looks like I've got a couple of books to read. Just saying. But what do y'all think about that journey, the hero and the heroine's journey in the book?
I think that, well, for me anyway, the journey of the hero and heroine are slightly different. I think the heroine finds her strength in the book, and I think the hero finds his vulnerability.
Yeah,
I like that.
Great.
And that's how I think of it.
Well said, Jackie.
It was very well
Thank you.
It was beautiful.
I will make a note. Okay.
Working on revisions, Megan.
Well, just incorporate that into this terrible.
Not at all.
I don't know about you. I find it easier to write my heroes' journeys and their development. And then sometimes I'll look back at my heroine and it's like, she's not really doing anything. And I don't know why, but I think just because my heroes they're angsty and I do go deep and dark with their past. And so it's so much easier to track that growth. And then I go back to my heroines and sometimes it's more subtle, but I love what you said, Jackie, about them finding their own strength, because sometimes it is through those smaller moments. And then all of a sudden they realize how far they've come.
Even
And I
if
hope
it's even if it's finding strength, like I've just written a heroine who's actually kind of alpha and she's very strong. So it looks like she's already got her strength, but actually her strength is in being vulnerable. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it's still the same thing, but just in a different way.
Yeah.
What I love about the heroes, or the ones I write, is they are trying so hard to feel nothing. And the heroine just wrenches, it's like tearing their chest open and pulling out their heart, and she makes them feel everything, and they just do not know what to do with that. Yeah,
I love that.
And I think that to me, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Well,
I was just going to say, I think to me, this is why no matter how far back you go in the line, it has always bothered me when people characterize the heroes in the Presents as being stronger. It's like, no, they're externally powerful.
Yeah.
They are emotionally,
absolutely,
completely illiterate. They have no idea what's going on in their own heart. And it is, I always think that at the end of my books, my heroines would be heartbroken to lose the hero, but they would go on and they would be okay. Because they have found an essential piece of themselves through that journey, and they will be okay. He is not going to be okay without her, because his whole worldview has been shattered. He thinks that he's in control of himself, of the things around him, and he's found the one thing that he cannot manipulate, that he can't pay for, that he can't, like, through sheer force of will, make his, and that's her. She has to choose him. And that is what makes him vulnerable. And so absolutely, I think the heroine comes into that power and is like, has found like a full understanding of herself, whereas he's like, I'm devastated, so like, please put me back together. And I love that.
I do. I love that. Oh my gosh. Carrie said in Michelle's book, the heroine shoots the hero. I remember you telling me that. And she's my book pusher, by the way. She book pimps to me all the time. You need to read this. I'm like, and that is actually on my Kindle because she told me about that scene. Because hello, how do you shoot the hero? And then it all works out okay.
Now I'm going to have to write that.
I know, right? It's awesome. Audrey Denholm said full circle with the kidnapping. Deborah Rocha said, thanks for the great discussion tonight, everyone. Sherry Gloak said, I've read that one, Maisie, the one you were talking about.
All right.
Carrie Nichols says, I love that, Jackie. We all did. It's so good. Horatius Angel said, my first presents was Penny Jordan, Rival Attractions. Just got another old presents today by Miranda Lee, where her heroine falls for the hot lawn guy who happens to be a millionaire.
I wanted to know the name of that.
I love that story.
And I've been thinking about that story, the hot lawn guy.
Did anybody ever read the Miranda Lee where the heroine owns horses? And she has like affairs with like alternating affairs with like the guy that brings the horse vitamins and the guy that brings the horse feed, but she can only have sex if she's on top because she watched horses have sex and it freaked her out. And so
I do not remember that one at all. I don't remember that one.
Yeah, and the hero shows up and he's like the first man that she lets take her in a dominant.
Oh my gosh! How fun is that?
I remember what it's called.
Miranda Lee wrote.
Horatius Angel said it's fantasies and future. So that is the one she's talking about. Sorry.
I was just going to say, Miranda Lee wrote one where the heroine is the secretary to the hero, and he's about to marry some gold digger, and he thinks he's in love with him, but the secretary knows the truth. And he gets injured and he loses short-term memory. So the heroine actually kidnaps him, takes him up to the Blue Mountains for the weekend. And it's only the short-term memory is lost. So he knows who he is, he knows who she is. And the only reason she's able to get him out of hospital, I think, is to say, oh, no, I'm his fiance. And they're away for the weekend. He's going, when did we get together? I don't remember us becoming engaged. It's gorgeous.
Do you remember?
Oh, she's really taking control here. This is fantastic.
Yeah. The title of her one, The Millionaire's Inexperienced Love Slave.
Okay.
And she is sitting in a cafe and the hero walks in and he looks just like her dead husband.
I read that.
And it's and there's a whole candle wax situation. Way pre 50 Shades of Grey. Presents has had it all along.
Right.
Presents has everything.
Everything. You're like, is there a Presents with this? The answer is yes.
Horatius Angel said that Miranda wrote Bonkers Presents. Agreed. Bonkers. Fun until the bonkers. The book we said has the laughing out loud, and Miranda Lee got it. So I think there's going to be some reading going on there. Well, it's been so great. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for coordinating.
Right.
Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone else, all the readers and everyone who's shown up. And this has been wonderful. We are going to, one last thing. Half a Most is nothing more hilarious and fabulous than a Presents authors get together. Please do these more often. Thanks so much for doing this. Just not during the time change, FYI. Just this thing is a problem.
Thank you for organizing it, Lucy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
You guys have been really great. We're going to go off of